What's going on YouTube? Once again, we're back at it with BMT-Zero, first place finisher of the ATGCS. I am ATG Smitty Plays over on Twitch if you guys want to go check it out. So we're planning on running another tournament pretty soon, sometime in April maybe. But for now, this is the coverage of the ATGCS and essentially what happened during that event. As you can see in front of you, it looks like Mekk-Knight, yes, Pure Mekk-Knight, not only made top cut, but won the entire event. I'm pretty much speechless. Seeing this list, it's kind of crazy to see what it could have done, and seeing it in action, especially in the finals, really stumped me. This deck was kind of incredible, just to say the least. So I do have BMT-Zero who's joining us today. He's the pilot of the deck, and he's been an incredible player overall. I've seen him in many other tournaments. He's done very well and topped a bunch of other events with what I assume to be his favorite deck, Mekk-Knight.
Yeah, well, yeah, as you've said, managed to pilot Lancia Turbo, trademark awaiting, to the finals and ended up taking the win. That was pretty funny. But yeah, Warcrime Mekk-Knights, 12 hand traps in main, 6 inside. Very fun deck.
Alright, well BMT, I see most of the list is fairly standard when it comes to Mekk-Knight, at least with the 3 purple Nightfall, 3 blue sky, 3 Girsu. However, here's where things start to deviate and I get kind of confused. You only opted to play 1 Indigo Eclipse, 1 Red Moon. You opted to play both yellow and orange. So this is kind of confusing. I don't see very many Mekk-Knight players playing all these other named Mekk-Knights besides Indigo Eclipse, and Indigo Eclipse at 1 is kind of stumping to me. Typically I see it at 2.
Yeah, so here's the thing. This might come as a surprise, but Indigo happens to be a really fucking bad card. Like, bro, it is literally just move. Like, that's all it does. So you play it because you need it for like interruption, and like in some cases it like comes up when you need to move Red Moon or Yellow Star. But you really don't want to see in your opening hand going second. Like, you just want starters and hand traps and like stuff to break boards, right?
Okay, completely understandable. So I see that your options for your 6 normal summons at least are gonna be the Almiraj and Sangan, and I love that you played a searchable kaiju with Sangan being Santa Claus. I'm more surprised that you only play 1 of it. So could you explain your reasoning as to why Sangan over any other normal summon, and with Sangan, why the specific options that you have for them?
Yeah. Okay, so in general, Sangan, in my opinion, is by far the best normal summon in this deck. Better than Girsu, better than Hyperia, Capshell, whatever. Way better than Alistair. Fuck Alistair. But yeah, basically you are able to get either Orange Sunset, which is just like a free body, or you can get World Chalice, which is discard fodder and means you can summon the best card in your extra deck, being Lip. Or in some cases you can also just get a hand trap, or of course best card in the deck, Santa Claus.
Okay.
This outed Dragoon twice in the tournament because who the fuck is gonna negate a Sangan?
And that's the exact reasoning I was thinking, especially watching the finals. I was like, okay, so he just normal summons Sangan, goes into his Almiraj, and people are like, what the hell does he search off of Sangan? Not many people know that there's a searchable pseudo kaiju that's out there, and it's Santa Claus. And so that sets up a free column for you being able to then extend with like Blue Sky and then go off from there. It was quite crazy to see, just to say the least. I was so surprised people hadn't caught on, especially after going into the top 8 section. Moving on to your spell lineup, I see that you played Pot, 3 Memory, which is pretty standard, the 1 Succession, and the 1 Key. The inclusion of Pot in this list, I can see, should have been extremely helpful, as you don't really need your extra deck as much as people would think. What targets would you typically take out, or would it just depend on the matchup, or how did you feel about Pot of Prosperity in this list?
Yes, Prosperity is absolutely fucking insane in this deck, especially going first, because it basically just gives you 3 more normal summons, if that makes sense, right? Because if you don't see a normal summon and you get to dig 6 cards deeper, you're almost guaranteed to either get a Gisu or a Sangan, right? So it just makes your deck so much more consistent going first. And then also going second, you're just able to grab any piece that you need to, establish dominance in the game state and just win.
Okay.
And yeah, typically your banishes usually, obviously it's kind of matchup dependent, but I usually banished 6. Sometimes depending on my hand, I would banish All Mirage. If I already have a normal summon, I always banish All Mirage, because that means I won't need it for Sangan.
Okay.
If I already have Yesu in hand. And then it would be Secure Gardener, 1 Lip, 1 Morning Star, and then either IP, Blackluster Soldier, and Unicorn, or Galatea, Dinkyesu, and Blackluster Soldier. It kind of depends on the matchup. Versus something like Eldritch that really struggles to out BLS, you obviously wouldn't banish it. But yeah, depending on the matchup, you'll banish whichever of your utility cards you don't need. That's the advantage of going second. You know exactly what your opponent's playing.
Okay, that's good logic to have there. Now I see the 1 Succession. I see that most people are cutting Lib from their Mekk-Knight list, just to say the least. Why is it that you continue to play Lib, and why at 3 when you only have, let's say, 1 Succession? I know you can set the other World Legacy cards with them, but being that you only have 2 secrets, what would typically be the option to set? Would it be another Memory just for an extender for next turn, like go into a Purple Nightfall and search on your opponent's turn?
Okay, so here's the thing. I have no idea why people are cutting Lip. This card is so fucking stupid busted. Like, the removal effect alone would be enough to max out on this thing. It is so dumb. But yeah, in general, it just like gets you either, it gets you Succession if you just need the extender to get lethal on board. It can also get you Key, which comes up quite a lot because you will have discarded a Mekk-Knight for Morningstar and then banished it with red, and then you can bring back that Mekk-Knight that you haven't summoned yet with the key that you set, and then you just get another free body on board. So like Lip is huge. It's just like getting game on board basically. And then of course it also just outs basically anything in the game with the non-targeting shuffle.
I see. Okay. Moving on to the last 2 traps prior to getting into the hand traps. Why only 2 secret? This card is so cracked against so many matchups now. Or did you just prioritize being able to go up against back row decks or anything like that?
Okay, so 2 secrets. This card, in previous formats, I've run 3, but right now, Drytron doesn't care about this card because all this shit activates in hand or in grave, and VW barely cares about this because all of their effects are hand and grave. Eldritch doesn't really care about on-field negation. Like, it's only really good versus like dragons and then rogue for the most part. Like, you still play 2 because the Call of the Haunted effect is obviously really, really powerful, but in general, this card's negation effect is not that great versus the expected meta right now. So yeah, I'm just running 2.
So if we were to shift into a more monster heavy meta or a combo heavy meta, would you say that you would bump this up to 3 again?
That's where people are like actually, activating monster effects on the field. Yeah, I would definitely consider playing 3. Yes.
Okay. So moving on to your hand traps. So this was interesting. Not the Ash, just to say, but so you had 3 Ash, 3 Bell, 3 Lancia, and 3 Imperm. So the thing that really caught my eye and stood out this entire tournament is the inclusion of impermanence into the main deck for a lot of the top decks in this current tournament. Why is it that you opted to select impermanence over any other hand trap, like let's say Skullmeister, for instance, which is known to be pretty effective against Eldritch or anything like that?
So the thing about Imperm that sets it apart from any other hand trap is that you can set it in your back row. I know that sounds really stupid, but there are a lot of times in this deck. Sometimes if you're not playing enough back row that you can just set, sometimes you just brick because you can't get a column up if you just draw 5 monsters. And that includes hand traps because, well, you can't really put them in the back row other than like Lancia, but then Lancia is obviously not in your hand anymore, so you can't use it. So like Imperm, I would always play 3 if I'm playing hand traps in this deck, and just because like it has that extra utility of being able to be set in the back row, but also like it might not be at its best as format, but it still stops a lot of things. Like it's pretty okay versus like, I know sometimes you can just hit OV, and then of course it's just really good versus Rogue.
Okay. And of course we all know the synergy between Secrets and Lancia, where you're able to Lancia on your opponent's turn, and then next turn if you can't kill them or finish them off, you typically set a Secrets, and then you can go ahead and Lancia again on their turn. How often that...
if you resolve Lancia versus a deck that loses to it once, that's basically a 0 turn kill. Like you literally win on their turn. You have to K them turn 0. It's so stupid.
How often did this come up where you were able to revive it and use its effect again?
I would say like 80% of games where I don't just OTK versus like Virtual World. Sometimes you just Lancia them, they pass back, and you just like bring back Lancia 3 turns in a row, and you can actually just punch for 2k every turn. You don't need to do anything else, and you just win because they can't play. It's pretty funny, but it's very much a thing that works in this deck.
Okay, and moving on to your side deck, I see that you have 3 Psycho Reader, 3 Drone Lock, the Scythe package, back row removal in the form of 3 Cosmic Cyclone and the Harpy's Feather Duster, and you opted to play the Whispers, the spell negation of the deck, if I'm correct. Why did you opt to play the Sanctum package? Was it just to set more columns, or whenever you went first you didn't feel confident against decks that could summon from the extra deck?
General, in game 2, a lot of decks are going to make me go first, which in that case, this card just said skip your opponent's turn. But also, another funny thing is, just like you can bring back Lancia, you can do the same thing with Scythe. So sometimes you can just Scythe your opponent 3 turns in a row instead, which is even funnier. Yeah, and then a Cycle Reader, just don't play this card, it's awful. Tritron's a bad deck, just don't play Cycle Reader. Basically, that's the message.
I was gonna ask, seeing the absence of Drytron, and when I say absence of Drytron, in this event we had 0 Drytron players, literally 0 Drytron players in this current event. How did Droll and Cycle Reader perform for you?
Okay, so Cycle Reader, as I'm saying here, it's a bad card and you should not play it, and I never cited it in once. But yeah, Droll is like it's still really good, this format. It hits a lot of virtual world hands. It like just there are quite a few rogue decks that also lose to it. I would still keep citing it just because like it can kind of catch virtual world, and that deck you just want to draw as many hand traps as possible because VFD is stupid. So yeah, you basically need to draw either one of your blowouts or at least 2 hand traps.
Okay.
So, fun.
What would you replace these cycle readers for in this instance?
That's a good question. Well, you could consider either maybe droplet or like maybe a gamma package. It kind of depends. Just anything that just says no to VFD, basically. Lightning Storm is another option, just if you have more back row. But yeah, in general, just side decking just depends on which decks you're expecting. Don't copy my side deck.
Alright, so moving on to the extra deck, of course, you have the All Mirage, the Secure Garna, 3 Lib. And by the way, I didn't know this. I always forget that it's a Cyber, so you can link off from Lib into Secure Garna and be able to get that bounce effect. It's pretty nice. The IP Masquerena, the 2 Morningstar, 1 Galatea, 1 Spectrum, 1 Luster, 1 Unicorn, 1 Access Code, Abramax, and Dingirsu. Is there anything from this extra deck that you might change up? Anything that you could recommend? Or would you leave it as is?
Okay, so everything is all of these ratios are pretty good. IP is a fucking MVP in any control matchup, because sometimes you can just make like IP and then a lib underneath it, and then on their turn you just quick link into the Abramax. And then you get an Abramax that they can't out, and you also just happen to trigger Lib on their turn, which is kind of fucking stupid. Because then you just get to shuffle anything non-targetingly, which is kind of good.
Pretty insane, pretty insane.
Yeah. Then we get to Blackluster Soldier Link is so underwhelming. I would definitely cut this for Zeus.
Okay.
Because like there were like a couple times where I really wished I didn't summon this thing once, but there were definitely a few times where I really wished that I could make Zeus with Dingirsu. So yeah.
Okay.
Cut PLS for the Zeus and you're good.
Okay. So moving on to the next question would be, what matchups did you play against in day 1 and day 2?
Yeah, so round 1 I got a bye because people were scared of me, I guess. Round 2, Dragon Maids. It was 2-1 because game 1 he summoned Quackimiro Draco off of Spheres. I don't know. Have you read what Quackimiro Draco does?
Yeah. That's hilarious.
That card is actually broken. So yeah, for anyone who hasn't read Quackimiro cards, it's basically just Vanity's Emptiness for light and dark monsters, and this deck really likes to special summon light monsters. So yeah, that was unfortunate. Round 3, PK. Yeah, Sangan, normal, make all Mirage, search Santa Claus, tribute Dragoon, summon, and yeah, that was game 1. And then game 2, I just opened Ash plus Bell.
Oh my god.
Yeah, best deck. Alright, round 4, Dino. This one I won 2-0. And There's not that much to say about this, to be honest. It was kind of just like I made, game one, I went second. He made a board. I broke it. He has 3 cards left in hand. Those 3 cards happen to be Lost World, Obi, and Misk.
Ooh.
So that was a fun game one. But yeah, then game two, I just Lancia him going first, and I win. And then game three, I just managed to break through his board, going second. So and he didn't have Lost World, Obi, Misk as follow up this time, so I didn't lose.
Well, that's good.
And then yeah, round 5, final round. I managed to catch my first and only loss to Medolce. It was 2-1. And yeah, this matchup was interesting. So I won game 1, but then like moving on from there, yeah, I managed to get hit with the evenly plus cosmic, which was really toxic and cringe, but it is what it is. And then yeah, apparently Medolce is just OTK out of nowhere. So I lost game 3, I guess. And yeah, those were basically my Swiss rounds. That was interesting.
Okay, and in day 2?
Yeah. So in top 4, I matched up against that same Medolce player from Swiss, and this time I managed to get the comeback, and it was a 2-0 where they bricked game 1, and it was like it was a normal summon, the bird. I forgot what it's called, the one that banishes the special summons.
Oh, Who Cake? Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Normal summon Food Cake set 4. And this deck is really, really good at dealing with back row.
Okay.
And then, yeah, game 2, I just happened to open 3 hand traps and full combo versus Medolce, which doesn't play through 1 hand trap apparently. And yeah, then that was the game. Really fun. And then finally, in finals, the greatest match of all time, I am versus PK again.
Ah, yes. It must have been fun.
This man got Lancia 4 times in one match.
We witnessed that. That was pretty gruesome. All right, well,
Lancia is an
BMT.
engine card.
Yeah, it's insane. Well, BMT, did you have any shoutouts? Anything that you'd like to say before anything?
Shout out to Sangan, to the MEKK-KNIGHT Discord, I guess, for making me main deck Lancia. The right one is my favorite column. And then yeah, that's just about it, really. Fun event.
All right, well, thank you very much, BMT.